What's up, you guys? American, welcome back to my channel. No, you grow up. So today's video is one of my favorite videos to do. It's one I only get to do 2 times a year, and we're going to take a look at my freshly cleaned and reset TMNT collection. So a lot of people ask me how I keep everything so clean, but the quick answer is I don't take any shortcuts. I do everything the hard way to keep my collection clean. I take everything off the shelf, I clean the boxes or the figures or whatever was on the shelf, and then it gives me a chance to put things back in a different order, maybe repost some things, and it always adds a lot of new life to my collection. I used to move stuff around and clean it all the time, but now that my collection's as big as it is, I really only have time to do it 2 times a year because it takes me about an entire week to do it. So now I have all my figures from 2023 in my display. Everything's fresh and clean. Let's take a look at it. Alright, you guys, so here it is, and I feel like I probably say this every time I do one of these videos. I could not be happier with how everything turned out this time. So this was the first time I ever had like the envisionment of what I wanted in my head, and everything worked out exactly the way I wanted to, and I didn't have to call any audibles. Everything just went where I wanted it to, and I couldn't be happier. Pretty much everything you're looking at over here is NECA, with the exception of the figures that were on the wall. Those are all Playmates re-release figures, but almost all NECA over here. Toon line, movie line, comic book figures, and then there's some other stuff down there we'll talk about later. My video game collection over there, we'll look at that in a little bit. But like I said, just really happy with how the grouping and organization came out over here. I have all my comic book figures over on that far right shelf now as opposed to the bottom shelves, and I like how that worked out. My video game stuff really didn't change that much, except for the stuff that's sitting on those storage bins back there. I put my Playmates blimp and my Playmates party wagon out there, and I like the way those looked. Better than on the shelves below, you can see them a little bit better, and then I could move those tie, they're not Beanie Babies, but like the tie stuffed turtles over there up off the floor, which makes me really happy. I like how they look on top of there. I just hate having anything on the floor. It's something I like to avoid as much as I possibly can, but sometimes with bigger stuff it just has to go down there. Over here is all my Super 7 and Playmates mainline figures. So this used to be Super 7 and Playmates, but everything, like I said, is expanding again, so I've had to move all of my Playmates subline figures, so you'll get a look at those later at the end of the video. We're really happy with how this turned out. Just organized a little bit better than it was before. Some of the stuff is kind of the same because some shelves I just have kind of locked into the way I like them. My desk has hardly anything on it right now, which for a couple reasons. One, I like to just not have so much clutter after having so much stuff on it, but as I accumulate things, they'll kind of hang out on my desk for a while before I actually move them into my display. So starting the deep dive into the collection, up top is my NECA TMNT movie figures. These guys are pretty much always going to be on the top shelf of what I consider my main display over here because I have those cardboard cutouts and it just works so perfectly like that. These Savage Dragon TMNT crossover figures are some of the only actual vintage carded figures. All the other ones you're going to see, with the exception of my 10 back April, are like the reproduction figures, and I pretty much keep all of those in package because I just feel like they just look good that way and they just look good on the wall, and I don't know, I've just always liked that aesthetic, and I'm probably never going to get to the point where I get a Playmates in package collection. I mean, I'm probably gonna like get some figures down the road. I actually had some back in the day and ended up selling a lot of them off because I just really wanted to focus on loose figures because it just made me a lot happier. So I moved quarter scale Trenchcoat Raph back over to the main display to give it a little bit of balance. So up top there is my childhood VHS copy of the first movie. All the Secret of the Used figures are posed with non-violent weapons, no blades for these guys, just blunt objects and flowers, keeping those parents happy because the first movie was too damn violent. My cardboard cutouts, probably some of my favorite things that I have. My grandpa got those for me. He actually passed away this last year. He was a really cool guy. He used to distribute VHSs for rental places and stuff like that, so he'd always hook me up with cool stuff like that. Over here is my Secret of the Used Turtles. Like I said, safety first, no violent weapons, just pizza and padded Nerf weapons for those guys. But over here we got the real deal, the badass looking first movie turtles, and I love these turtles a lot. They're definitely starting to show their age a little bit, but they're some of the first NECA figures that I got, some of the first ones that I opened, and I really like those guys. This Shredder and Foot Soldier display is always kind of the same. I always have Shredder, and I like to have 8 Foot Soldiers. Secret of the Used, I only have 7 now because the chubby one only came as 1. I'd like to get another fat one to kind of round that one out, but pretty much all my Shredder displays will have Shredder with 8 Foot Soldiers as far as NECA goes. Some more of my inbox NECA figures over here, just ones that I didn't open because I already have a version of them open. In my Super Shredder over there actually got signed by Kevin Nash in Indie Comic Con 2021. Yeah, 2021. So really happy to have that. One of my favorite things in my collection. I know I'm going to say that a lot to the point where it probably doesn't mean anything to you guys, but there's a lot of stuff in here that's just really special to me. So have a little bit of live action overflow over here, and I kind of like it because Toka and Razar just kind of shine over here along with that Super Shredder. I feel like they're kind of on a podium over there. Probably the two best movie figures that have been made, and down here would be the runner-ups. I really like those third movie figures. Really happy we got those. Really happy how they turned out. I have the Musical Mutagen Tour Turtles down here. Really like those guys as well. And then my Universal Monster Turtles on the bottom. I'm probably just going to get a Leo to round those guys out. So like I said earlier, I have all my comic book figures over on this shelf as opposed to the bottom shelves where they've always been, and I really like how this looks over here. Something else I'm really excited about is Usagi has his very own shelf now, which is awesome because we've been getting so much cool Usagi stuff and we're starting to get more, and Bunny Suit, Bebop, and Rocksteady just fit perfectly on that shelf. So really happy I could get an Usagi shelf. This is like my main Mirage display, and it has my favorite figures on it. The Turtles, the Triceratops, that Red Shirt Casey, the Splinter, and then I have the Raphael Micro Series back there. First appearance of Casey Jones, one of my favorite comics that I own. Down here is the Ronin shelf, and lots of space to work with because I feel like we're about to get a buttload of Ronin figures in the next year, so he might be expanding to 2 shelves before we know it. And then down here is all the rest of my Mirage figures along with my hardcovers and all my Ronin books because they made Ronin oversized for some reason, so it doesn't fit in short boxes. So they are on my shelves along with my hardcovers. Just really excited to see where this line goes. I think it's NECA's best line right now. Over to what I consider to be like the focal point of my collection is the NECA Toon line, and I just could not be happy with how this turned out. So this, like I said, is kind of what I wanted. I wanted it all just on these front-facing shelves right here, and I've never had it organized this way before, and I just love the way it looks. Wish I could have got a little bit more headroom for my quarter scale turtles, but it is what it is. Over here is like my reptile slash amphibian characters. I really like how I got all those guys on a shelf together. I don't know why, it's just funny to me. This is like one of my favorite shelves that I have, and it's like one of my only displays that's kind of like a scene, I guess. And I'm not gonna act like I'm the greatest poser or anything like that. Greatest posers? That's a really weird thing to say, but anyway, I just really like how this turned out. These figures are just really fun. They just have such good expressions and stuff on their face. It's just a good use of all the damaged figures as well. And then I have Human Baxter Stockman kind of like back in the corner there being pissed off. So kind of the same shelf as last time, but I just tweaked it a little bit. Over here are like some of my ally figures, some of the good guys, and then I have some Usagi overflow in the back because like I said, we just got a lot of Usagi stuff and I just want to be able to display as much of it as I can. Down here is my Knight of the Rogue shelf, and the only one we're missing is Tempestra. For the love of God, NECA, just give me fucking Tempestra before you do whatever you're going to do with this line to make it not the Toon line anymore. So right in the heart of my Toon display, we have 2 quarter scale turtles, the Turtles in Disguise, and as much as I love these, I can't wait to get the Punker Turtles. I'm very excited for that set to come out. Over here we got some of my Channel 6 figures, and then we have Rex 1, one of my favorite figures from the last year, and then the 2 figures that don't really fit anywhere because they were never really technically in universe. We got Ace Duck and that Hamato Yoshi. I mean, I guess they were in universe. That's not really good phrasing, but you know what I mean. So as we start to work our way down, we're going to run into some villains, and I don't know, it just seems like we have way more villain figures than we do good guy figures. Maybe it's because so many of them are army builders, but it just seems like all my villain shelves are packed pretty tight as opposed to my good guy shelves that seem to have a little bit more elbow room. Over here is another shelf that doesn't really change much because I just have it almost exactly the way I like it, and it's my main Shredder, Foot Soldier, Krang, Bebop, and Rocksteady display, and I just really, I like the way this looks. It's probably one of my favorite shelves. It just is pretty much a variation of this every time. Stuff might get adjusted a little bit, but it's a little packed, but I just really like the way that one looks. So this shelf was originally supposed to just be duos and trios, but Baxter didn't have a home and he just fit in that gap really well, so he snuck his way onto this shelf. Sorry Baxter Stockman, but you are the Steven Glansberg of that shelf. Coming down here, we're going to start to get in some gang factions. So we got Bebop and Rocksteady's gang right here, along with some of my childhood VHS tapes. Over here, so happy that the Turtle Van could fit on a shelf. I was worried it wasn't going to be able to. I was worried I wouldn't be able to like make it look decent on there, and I'm not going to say it's the greatest display ever, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I have my Style Guide Turtles inside the van, and I don't know, this thing is just really fun. It was definitely overpriced, but it makes me super happy, and definitely stole that idea of the Leo peeking his head out of there from somebody on Facebook. Not sure who it was, but good fucking idea, dude. Definitely stole it from you. Got some more gang stuff going on over here. So we got the Crooked Ninja Turtle gang, and then we got Alpha 1 and a couple of his cronies. I hope they do more foot soldiers down the road, because I could always use more to put in his gang. The Triceratons are kind of hard to display because of their tails, so I can only have 5 of them on that shelf, and they have it all to themselves. The Dimension X shelf kind of packed, but I really like how all these guys look together. They just fit really well together. One that's always the same, but I just really like how it looks, so I don't change it up much. And over here is kind of just all my figures that didn't really have a home, so I guess it's just kind of my leftover shelf. So this is kind of the section that bridges the gap between my main 2 Turtles displays. I have my Casey Jones mask and my April press pass over there. My Ninja Turtle stocking I just leave up all year round because it just fills negative space and just adds more stimulus to the room, because clearly there's just not enough in here. Coming down here to, like I said, those stuffed turtles. They're Thai, but they're not really Beanie Babies. And picked these guys up at Comic-Con in Muncie this year, so pretty good score. I think I got both those guys for like 15 bucks. Pretty happy about that. Got my Turtles in Time arcade 1-up cabinet with all the Turtles in Time NECA figures. I think this is an underappreciated line. I can understand why people don't feel it, and they kind of feel like it's redundant when we have the cartoon line, but I still really enjoy it. Another one of my favorite sublines that I just started working on this year are these Caveman Turtles. Shout out to Dustin for hooking me up with that Mikey. Greatly appreciated, dude. Moving over to my Super 7 and Playmates area. So this area is one that I just really have to keep being creative with, because Super 7 figures take up a lot of space, and I just have like a pretty good amount of Playmates figures. So before I had all of my Playmates figures on this shelf, and I had to move all of my main line off to make a little bit more room for my Super 7 figures. And if we end up getting the waves we're supposed to get in the next year, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I feel like this whole display is going to be Super 7 by then. So I'm really going to have to figure out what I'm going to do, because like I said, I'm just running out of space. I have all my reproduction figures up here, and again, these guys, they're definitely not as good as the original ones. Their plastic is crappier, the paint is crappier, but in package, they still look pretty decent. They just give me that vibe that I like, and it's just fun to see these figures on store shelves again. Coming into my Super 7 display, so this shelf didn't really change a lot. I think I just kind of moved the figures around a little bit, but that grouping's probably always going to stay the same with those guys. So I think eventually I'm going to have to stop displaying my in-package figures, because as you can see, you can't fit a whole lot of them on a shelf with these figures. I have 3 figures on that shelf, and they are 3 of the bigger figures, but like I said, these guys just take up a lot of space, but man, they just look good. Like, I know there's some issues with these figures. I know the QC isn't always the best. They have some sketchy joints, but they just look so damn good, and they display so well. Moving back up to the top here, another shelf that doesn't really change because I like the way it is. And unlike NECA, I only have 4 Super 7 foot soldiers, because like I said, they just take up a lot of space. No way I'm getting 8 of those guys on the shelf with Bebop and Rocksteady. Some of my bigger villain figures here, / one of my all-time favorite figures in any line ever. Then we have the remainder of my mainline villain figures, and below them is probably my favorite shelf on this side, all of my glow-in-the-dark villain figures. I love these figures. I know most people don't really give a shit about the glow-in-the-dark stuff, but to me, they're just some of the funnest figures there is. Coming down to my Playmates figures, and these are just my mainline figures, so I have the first 4 years complete, so the 88, the 89, the 90, and the 91 mainline figures. And then I just started working on the 92 figures, so I just have 2 of those, and we'll take a look at those guys in a little bit. But this is the line that got me back into collecting, and my first goal for collecting these was to get the first 4 years, and then anything after that was just kind of a bonus. I know I wanted to get a lot of subline figures, and like I said, we'll take a look at those later, but if I do end up completing the 92 wave, like, I'll probably try to move on to 93, but that'll already be just extra for me at this point, because the first 4 years are the figures that I just remember the most from my childhood. They're all the ones that I've played with. And I recently added the sewer cycle to my vehicle, so I now have all 3 of the vehicles that I had when I was a kid, so that's really awesome. The only thing I'm missing that I really want is the sewer layer, and I think I'm going to pull the trigger on that before this year is over. Coming over to my desk, so I have the giant size original Mikey over there. This guy right here is one of the most special things in my collection, so shout out to my buddy Josh over at Mustache Mayhem, who sent me this custom painted Muckman figure that he did himself. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate this thing, how much I love this thing. Like, one of the coolest gifts I've gotten ever for sure. One of my favorite figures, the not Leonardo, the Samurai Spring figure from the company that is now Rage Toys. I have some of my Lego TMNT minifigures over here. It'd be cool if Lego could get that license back. And my SH Figure Arts Turtles that used to be in my living room, and now I have them out here. So I moved my 6-scale Mondo Mikey out to the living room so these guys can make their way back into my main display. Over here we have some Turtles Overflow. So I have my TMNT Power Rangers crossover figures here, and then my Batman TMNT crossover figures here. Still keeping their place in my display, but they've just kind of been moved to the annex for now. Coming over to my Playmates subline figures. So I know a lot of people don't like the subline as much as they do the main line, but these are the majority of figures that I actually had as a kid. Everybody just got me Turtles because they know I liked Turtles. So a lot of these are ones I had as a kid. The two figures I'm on the hunt for right now are Movie Star Mikey and Storage Shell Mikey, so I can lock up those two sublines along with Punker Donnie. Those are the ones that I really want to get done before this year's over. And last but not least, my reproduction Turtle Blimp with more reproduction figures. I've probably bought 10 sets of reproduction turtles at this point. But let's be real, you can never have too many of those turtles. Alright, so that is going to wrap things up. Thank you guys so much if you stuck around to this point. Shout out to a couple people that I didn't mention in the video. So my buddy Ben has hooked me up with a ton of stuff that you see in this display. I can't thank that guy enough. He's always on the hunt, always helping me get stuff, and he's just gifted me a ton of stuff too. Shout out to my buddy Mark over at Bite Size Geek. He gifted me a membership to the Kevin Eastman fan club, so that's where I got that signed Kevin Eastman book, so thanks for that, dude. Shout out to my buddy Josh, who's hooked me up with a ton of stuff that you did not see in this video, but will see another day, because he hooks me up with a lot of stuff that's not TMNT that I really like. So thanks for all that stuff, dude. You're awesome. And last but not least, my girlfriend Lacey, who doesn't even watch my content anymore, but she has also gifted me a ton of this stuff for my birthday and Christmas. We go to the toy store. She lets me pick out whatever I want. So thank you to her as well. And last but not least, thank you guys. Thank all of my subscribers. Thank all of you that watch my videos that don't subscribe. I just cannot tell you how much I appreciate your support and what it means to me. You guys are awesome. Without you, I wouldn't have the motivation to do this anymore. So that's all I got for you guys in this one. So take it easy, be safe, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.